You're listening to the Global Uj podcast, where every week we learn about the world through the eyes of entrepreneurship. With your host, Ujwal Velagapudi.
Health and what I consume is a very large component of my life, and I would think many of you as well. The options available differ wildly between regions and countries. Changing cultural habits, especially, and mindsets that have been embedded for generations can be extremely difficult, but Laurène Maire and her team are on a mission to offer Mexico the best products to health-conscious consumers at honest prices with their company, Yema. With a team of industry experts, they have dozens of their own in-house products in their supermarket spanning from food, personal care, and home goods. Laurène is the co-founder and chief merchandising officer who is an ex-McKinsey and Wharton MBA alum. She had also co-founded a successful sleep technology company called Luuna, which her husband continues to operate as the CEO today. If you're ever in Mexico City, you can check them out at one of Yema's stores located in La Roma.
Thank you for having me. Super happy to talk to a broader audience.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, I appreciate your time with us and sharing a little bit more about the Mexican ecosystem as well as the brands that you've worked on. Could you go over a little bit about what Yema is, what you guys stand for, and introduce the product?
Sure, happy to do so. So at Yema, we are building the better for you Trader Joe's. We're super impressed by this type of model in the US, and we see that in Mexico, there is none. Of course, you always have better for you products available, but at higher prices or more targeted to a certain niche. And so what we are looking to do is broaden that set of Mexican that can have access to better for you products, not only in price, but in conversation, make them appealing, fun. And so we're doing that by a direct to consumer model. So we have our own online store and also physical store.
I was mentioning before that I'm planning on visiting Mexico City for a few months, and being someone that puts health as number one, my diet, what I consume, what I put in my body, everything. So when I'm going to a new city, a new country, I had to do quite a bit of research on exactly what I'll be eating, where I'll be staying, and whatnot. So I was trying to map out exactly where I can place my Airbnb in relation to the various grocery stores that were available and the various stores that I could actually have access to. And I didn't know it at the time, but a few weeks ago when I was doing the research, came across the store, and then now I've been able to put two and two together. But yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, it's very important that the fact that you mentioned health. It's at the end in Mexico, even more. I mean, it's not just better for you, or like hopefully people feel better also by eating better and stuff like this. But it's that there's a real problem with chronic disease in Mexico. I mean, it's the second country with adult obesity, first one with child obesity, a lot of diabetes, cardiovascular heart disease. So this is why maybe I didn't mention it before, but that kind of triggered why with my partners, my other co-founders, we wanted to do something different, and we looked at Trader Joe's, and so that was a really a good opportunity to start something more affordable by manufacturing our own products and selling them directly to people, and of course bringing some other brands along the way. But at the core of what we do, it's really that hopefully we can put our a little bit of contribution to a bigger problem that exists in Mexico, and but do it in a fun way. We don't want to build a brand that's oh, you shouldn't eat that, you shouldn't eat that. Like it's more like, hey, let's make the healthy and the food sexy and fun and tasty, and this is what this is the opportunity that we were seeing in Mexico, and hopefully when you go to La Roma and to the store, you get the chance to try the product, and then you can tell me whether we made it or not.
That's amazing. I mean, so my background, I actually worked in the automotive space and have visited Mexico, I would say a couple dozen times, from Guadalajara, Monterrey, all the way down to Puebla and everywhere in between. So I would, I would be on the production floors looking at our greater team within Mexico. I'd be working alongside my peers, and obviously socially just going out to a restaurant or bar afterwards. And there's so many different snacks, and this is I can relate this to being Indian and having traveled to India to visit my family there as well. There's so much junk food available, and it's great. I love the chips. I love the various snacks that are available. There used to be a vendor that used to come every single day at 2:00 to our production floor, like a little mini food truck, and everybody would run out to grab these snacks. And so it just reminded me of that when you mentioned how to make it sexy, how to make it more attractive, because of the health related issues. And so when you have that sort of culture where, it's cheap to be able to grab a snack off the street, it's more accessible, it's tasty, it's great. How are you guys able to, gravitate people in terms of their mindset to make it more fun in the way you're saying, and make it just as tasty or just as attractive mentally when a consumer, is comparing apples to apples?
Yeah, sure. And of course, it's hard to change, consumer habits. So it's not something that I say lightly. But first, just so of course, we look at the first criteria to select a product and to go for production is it's the taste. It's not because it's healthier, it doesn't have any artificial preservative, etc. That no sugar added, etc. That it should lose its taste. So we this is where the innovation and the product development is super important, and we have a team of food experts with multiple backgrounds that kind of work on those recipes to make them work. And then, so this is more like, okay, but that's when the person has already decided to buy it and is trying it, and hopefully it impacts repurchase. But also something that's super important is it's what the eye see. And this is why we built a brand that we find super attractive, that's super clear also on the label, really colorful. And so the idea is also to call your attention and to be as attractive, hopefully, as like a regular option, and to stand out like this. So it's That's both great. The product and how it looks. I think both are important to change the conversation. And then we have, of course, our channel of communication and our website, our social media, etc. Also, we have customer service that's super strong, and people usually talk about it when they give a review, where we would also help you understand. No, it's also how we make it easier to understand the labels and everything. And in Mexico right now, there's a new label law that's coming to action in October. That's going to put like a dark, let's say, shapes for when you're in excess of calories, sugar, etc. But there's very little explanation around it. So it's just like, okay, it's supposed to scare you, but do you really understand what it means? So our role is also to inform better, so that people can make more better informed decision when it comes to eat. That's a bit like the less immediate role that we play. And like the product it's more like, okay, I have to convince you when you see it on the shelf, more like how it looks. But then there's this whole conversation that we're building around what's healthy and help you understand that. That's more like a long-term also goal to help people eat better.
Is that something that you guys are leading the charge on, and you're still at the very early stages of the shift when it comes to the education on reading the labels, understanding exactly what they mean? And is that something that you guys as a company can do alongside with your peers, if there's a peer network of healthy snacks, healthy food items, grocery stores that are leading this charge, that can help address that with the government? Or do you think that is truly needing to come from the government and those various agencies to help bring about this change and educate the general consumer on it?
So I think that, well, compared to the US or maybe other countries, the shift to more healthy products is definitely happening now in Mexico, but it's coming later than maybe what occurred in the US. And so the magnitude of how people are informed and looking for more healthier products and et cetera is much less than what you would find in the US, but it's definitely happening. I think the government is coming in and trying to find some solutions, because maybe larger companies were not implementing fast enough maybe these changes. And of course, there's a lot of lobby from, big CPG to kind of make that new labor law not happen too fast. But what we do, as a startup, when you were talking about leading the charge, especially, for instance, taking that example, we're developing a lot of material for consumers to understand. We're helping other, suppliers in the ecosystem, just because it's not just about the consumer to understand the new label. It's just starting from the supplier that has to change the whole, label, and it's not always very clear. So we're sharing a lot of our knowledge with the ecosystem, both consumers and suppliers. So hopefully this change has a better impact.
That's good. That's good. And I know you mentioned a couple of times Trader Joe's as well. So is that, I don't believe there are any Trader Joe's in Mexico, or does that come back to, did you spend some time in the US or any?
Yes, I have some family in Pittsburgh, but also I did an MBA. I had the chance to do an MBA in Philadelphia and at Wharton, and so there was Trader Joe's there. So this is where I used to go, and my other co-founders also know very well that store. And why I mention it is because it's more or less 80% private label, Trader Joe's, and it's more so it has this aspect of I'm buying smart. It's not that expensive maybe compared to other stores like Whole Foods for clean label products, but at the same time there is this at least what I felt and what I shared, I felt like other people had felt too, is that there's also this feeling of product discovery that's fun, that's I'm going to buy this new product from Trader Joe that's super good. So it's not just about a good relationship, price and quality, but it's also that idea of enjoyment that we want to replicate in our stores and with our products.
Okay, nice. And so what, you said you've only spent some time in the US at Wharton. So prior to that, so looking at your name, I know I took a few years of French, and looking at l'accent grave, do you have a French background? And
yes.
Prior to the US, prior to going to Wharton, where was your upbringing at?
So yeah, I was raised in France. My dad was in the military, so we changed quite a few times of town. But then I went to study for college in Montreal, in Canada, and then I worked briefly in France, and then I went almost right after college to Latin America. I started more as a consultant in McKinsey in Chile. And then I moved around a bit in Colombia. And then in 2015, I landed in Mexico because with my husband, we wanted to start a company, and it made more sense that it would be in Mexico. And literally, we arrived at Mexico in 2015 with 2 suitcases, our savings, and an Airbnb, a bit like maybe what you'll experience in a few weeks. And we knew nobody, at the end, and we just had this big dream. This was a prior company we started. It's called Luuna, which is a direct-to-consumer mattress company, similar, let's say, to the Casper direct-to-consumer model. And we saw a big opportunity. There were manufacturers in Mexico and a very bad consumer experience. So this is how my entrepreneurship journey started. And I think it's a good example that you don't necessarily, need the network, right from the beginning, or it was a new country, and for me, it's always, of course, it's also, even if I've been living in Latam for 10 years, it's still like a different culture. And now I'm looking at food products, and it's I haven't been raised eating Mexican food, but it's still possible. I think it's we with we were 4 co-founders for Luuna, and now it's a super successful startup with many stores and also in wholesale, very good products, and I decided to start Yema also to separate things from my husband and to start a different journey. And also because I've always been passionate about the food and looking at the health issues that were happening in the country. And loving Trader Joe's and seeing this new opportunity, I started Yema. But it started all in Mexico, and at the end we knew nobody. We didn't know the country. It just made sense from a business point of view.
And so your husband is still operating Luuna?
Yes, yeah.
He is.
Yeah,
okay. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's interesting because then you're part of an ecosystem, and there's a lot of learnings that I took from Luuna to Yema. Of course, two different industries. One is mattresses, and the other is more like CPG. But in the direct to consumer model, omni-channel, online to offline, offline to online, how you bring wholesaling, etc. And also just more like practical things that, okay, I need a lawyer to, just incorporate my company. I need, which bank I'm going to open a bank account, like really like things that very basic when you start a company. Having to have that background with that first company really helped, accelerate a bit that curve. And of course, then there's many new challenges ahead of us that don't relate to Luuna, but it has been a very helpful to have that as a background.
And so you said you came across the issue when you guys moved to Mexico in 2015 with your husband in terms of trying to source a mattress or trying to buy one. So you've got that idea. How did you take that from inception to actually testing it when you didn't know anybody there, you didn't have the resources available? So how does that look like? And then how did that change just a few years later, 3 years later, when you were starting Yema, in terms of who you could go to, how you could do the market research and actually test out your idea in this now, place that you've been for 3 years at that point?
Yeah. So, you have no option. So it was a lot about, my husband was writing a lot, through LinkedIn to funds. And at that time, on top of that, we didn't know a lot about, fundraising. So, and so just contacting, insisting a lot. This is how we got, our foot, in a first meeting, and then it gets better, and then maybe someone recommends you to someone else, and it's just, how much you're passionate and you get to sell your idea. But there was no warm introduction at that time to source the mattress. It's complicated, because when you look for manufacturers, they usually don't really have a website because it's not, a consumer business. So it's, this is why we moved to Mexico, because we knew we had to be physically there to go to the, to the plant, to the manufacturer and see, the production, the facility, etc. And from there, it's pitching both supplier and the fans. And for that first startup, we bootstrapped. So the test, let's say the testing parts, getting our first mattress, our first client, the website. So all let's say the MVP was funded by us. And let's say 2 months in of starting to sell, then, the first check came in. And fast forward now, let's say a couple of years ago when we started Yema, it was a very different story. And Yema is also a very different business model, because we're not developing one product. At the time was one mattress, but we're developing, if you want to be a supermarket, you cannot offer one product. So we had to start, from the beginning, at least with 50 things. And so it's a little as a store, but it's a lot when you have to develop, new innovative things, clean label. And so all that development time that took at least 6 months, you have to build the brand, the store, the products, etc. So that had to be funded because it needed a bigger team, etc. So it's not that we could bootstrap a business model like Yema and then, knock some doors. So because I had that first experience, I was able to access then a network of funds, and we were lucky that we were funded, on more like on an idea, and this is the team and this is the idea we want to do, and give us a first check so that at least we can, launch and we can finance that whole team that's going to build the first pipeline of products and tech, etc. So very different stories on the start.
And so out of, you mentioned with Trader Joe's, their private label system, with Yema, how or what percentage of the products that you guys sell are actually in-house versus other partners?
Yeah, so in our revenue, more or less, it's like 40% partners, 60% Yema, let's say. And so it can vary a little bit, but it's usually around that. And our goal is to be more like, hopefully one day, 80% Yema, or to be all Yema. It's a very different economics when you develop your own batch of production. Whereas if you can just buy a few units of another brand and test it out and see whether it works. So it's to scale, let's say the assortment of SKUs. It's much easier to go with other brands. It requires less working cap. But the true innovation and the value add that we think we can bring to the consumers go more through the products we can develop through our brand Yema. So it's a trade-off as we grow. Okay, which product do we first develop as Yema, and which one we will develop later? And there are more business models that are doing that a bit in the US also. Like so, Trader Joe's is more like the traditional retail, brick and mortar retail that has that. But then, for instance, now you have like a Thrive Market that has worked really well. I don't know if you know about them in the US. It's more like let's say almost like you have to have a membership. So it looks a bit like Costco. Like you buy a membership and then you're supposed to have a good discount on products. But they also have a strong arm of developing their own products through their Thrive Market brand. So I think it's a business model that's here to kind of stay and grow, because there's a lot of value that you can pass to the end consumer.
Can you, what's the next product that, for example, I want you to walk me through how you consider a product, how you evaluate it, who you partner with, how you partner with somebody, and then how you actually vertically integrate that. So pick a product that, maybe something that you're working on today that you're trying to transition. Yes.
So as we develop products in very different categories, we don't have, the machine that produces. So it's always a partnership with the manufacturer. We are very involved in the recipe, if it's food, the formula, if it's personal care, etc. So that's what my team does. And then, all the labeling, the branding, which packaging. So usually, we use various suppliers because they do different things, between the packaging and the actual product. And so usually we start by, analyzing different sources of data. So of course, there's the more, public available data that we can all access to, like on the trends of what people are looking for, what products should we develop based on that. And from, I would say, like in vegan protein, etc., to name a few that are trendy right now. And then the power of Yema is to use the direct-to-consumer model, the fact that we develop the product, but we also sell them, to get the data from the client or potential clients to know what are they looking for and what we should develop. No? And so that it's more according to their needs than just what we see in trend. No? And so for that second type of data, we use both data before we develop. So let's say we can look at searches on our website that what people are looking for. Then we do a lot of also surveys, or we invite them to test a few things. Also, like maybe previous to launch the actual products. So we have a lot of conversations with them on what should we develop next, with what features or what type of ingredients, etc. And so this is usually how it starts. Also, we compare to other supermarkets, maybe in which categories we're not penetrated enough, etc. And then we build a pipe of products that are what we would like to produce, to manufacture. And based on, budget, working cap, we go with the prioritization. And then we start the testing with the manufacturers. So now we have a good understanding of, who can do what. And of course, we discover new ones every day. But we were able also to concentrate buyers' products, maybe one manufacturer that have a good capabilities to, develop spreads. No? And so we can do a spread with peanut butter with monk fruit. Then we can do a spread of, chestnut, I think is chestnut spread with 78% chestnut. That's very different from a very commercial brand, etc. So we have really like partners with who we know we can develop specific recipes, and then we start the process of starting the clean label recipe, and then we test it with our team, with consumers, and if it's we iterate, and then we launch. And so usually we have a much shorter time to market. Let's say CPG takes 12 to 18 months. We usually can launch between 4 to 6. So it's much faster, and we get also afterwards immediate feedback, no? And so we can still iterate the product if it hasn't been, 100% successful right at the start. And that's the edge that we want to keep, amplifying at Yema. And this is our big focus. And this is the value add also that we can bring to the consumer, not just, a good price and relationships, good price quality relationship, but also innovative products based on things that you like, as long as they're clean label.
And you were talking about partnering with your manufacturers, as opposed to directly off the partners. So coming from a supply chain background and working in sourcing and predominantly within Mexico, are all, if not most of your suppliers in Mexico? And, how are you managing your supply chain as far as, especially in a time like this where, there might be working restrictions as far as production capacity. There could be regional shutdowns. There could be their raw material issues as far as them being able to procure. So in a time like this, are you dual sourcing certain products? Do you have, let's say if one manufacturer shuts down, do you have the capability to lean on somebody else? Can you go through how your supply chain looks and regionally, and then one day, or as you guys are growing, to expand to other regions as well?
So to your first question, it's mainly in Mexico. There are very few products that we import that we didn't find the exact product that we wanted here. Let's say we bring pasta from Italia because the flour we couldn't find a non-adulterated flour here, so it changes the taste. So we import it from Italy, for instance. No, but let's say 90% of food and personal care is made here. And then, so in terms of supply chain, yes, of course, COVID definitely brought some challenges, not for all companies, but there are different types. No, it's more for some, it's say, hey, this nut come from the US, so because it's in dollar and the exchange rate completely devaluated, now I have to increment the cost. So how do we, so as long as it's a small portion of the cost, maybe we can reflect or we either absorb it, or if it's a bigger portion, sometimes you had to reflect it a bit in the price. Then there's the high, like you were mentioning, capacity. So some had to maybe shut down for a few weeks because of COVID regulation. So if it's a packaging manufacturer, maybe it's easier to go to another packaging manufacturer because it's a bit more like a commodity. For the actual product, it's a bit more difficult to change sometimes because sometimes we only have one that we really like the quality. So if that one doesn't work out, I think it's more, getting a bit more inventory to be safe. And actually, we didn't have like a real stock out because of, this kind of, capacity problem. We were able to kind of solve it. And then there are some factories that are working much more than before because they're doing, say, a personal care factory is doing a lot of, antibacterial spray and stuff like this. So it's taking into account that the lead time may be longer and just to schedule it a bit earlier, the production.
Huh. And so you've got that within Mexico, and then what about your next country as far as, is that on the horizon, or is that already in the works? Is that something you're already able to do? And let's just say, I'm not sure if this is in the works, but let's say you go to South America or towards Europe or another market. Do you think that supply chain network will inevitably have to change towards those regions? And if it's a situation like that, how would you plan on completely shifting and finding a whole nother supplier that will produce the exact same product in another region for that particular local market?
So right now, we're not really focused on going international. We have been approached by like somebody in Germany and maybe somebody in Central America. So it's more to not take us out of focus here in Mexico, where there's still a lot of room to grow. It's more, okay, if we can make it work with the product that we have, maybe just change the label, let's say in German if necessary or something like this, fine. But it shouldn't affect right now the supply chain. Now, if we saw that there's a really big opportunity, there's a lot of revenue coming from there, and the supply chain here doesn't work well anymore, then we would probably evaluate whether to produce it, to manufacture it elsewhere, as we do for some other products. So, it's not that I see it as a big barrier. I would definitely consider it. I think it's just right now, as long as this international partnerships do not manifest themselves, and show some real revenue, then for now we stay focused on Mexico.
Okay, right. And throughout your experience with Luuna and Yema, how's the interaction been and relationship been with the government agencies? Because maybe less so with Luuna, with the mattresses, but I'm sure with Yema, this is a consumer product where actually it's a consumable item. Health aspect is going to be there, the labeling and that regulation. So how has that been working with these different agencies to getting those approvals? And is it something that still has significant room to improve, or has it been relatively seamless working with them?
So for consumer goods, let's say food and personal care, like as long as it's not, treatment like medicine or something like this, you don't have to get a permit, but you still have to declare it. And so that declaration still have to go through the process of what you're selling, who's your supplier, what's the ingredients. And so in that regard, we have been exposed to, the agencies, as you mentioned. Of course, there's a room to improve more, in the process, and hopefully tech will help, automate more things. And we have a person dedicated to it in the team, like that sees legal/regulatory affairs, and a lot of his job is to look at after, okay, the regulation of the products, what we can say, what not, etc. And I think now, so that's the first, let's say, regulation. And then, of course, now, as I was mentioning, there's this new label regulation. So they're going to be looking at even more, at the labels. And so it's just getting to understand better. And so finding the right person at the agency that can answer your questions, etc. But it's been a bit of a gray area, the regulation. But right now we're getting a good understanding. And this is why we want to help spread that understanding to consumers and suppliers, because it's not always easy to get the answers. And yeah, so as a consumer product, not a pharmaceutical one, or as long as you don't have a claim that this product is going to help you digest or is going to help you sleep better. And so sometimes we see brands that kind of make these claims, and normally you couldn't if you don't have, the backup of a clinical trial or whatever. You need to back up some claims. But we are very meticulous in respecting what can be said and what not. And so, yeah, that's very important. It hasn't been it hasn't slowed us down more than what I just said, that you have to go to the agency, you have to present stuff and everything. But it's something that we definitely have to watch out and be very conscious about, the new regulations and everything, because it impacts a lot the labeling, what you can say on when you promote your products and everything.
Right. And so with your experience going, doing an MBA in the US and then spending your time in multiple different LATAM countries, how has it been working within Mexico in terms of the political structure, let's say there is, when you were talking about agencies and things like that, is there a corruption element to it where, it's a lot more difficult to get things through, a lot more difficult to get things processed? And I'm asking that because when I was working in various different countries, we would have to indirectly or directly do a few things to be able to get our shipments in, getting it through customs, getting them expedited. And, those are all realities in commerce anywhere in the world. And so have you been exposed to that? Have you come across any situations where, it just kind of was an obstacle at that certain period, and how you guys resolved it?
So, of course, Mexico has its this type of thing that you mentioned. But first I would say it's very easy to start a company in Mexico. I mean, to incorporate it. When we started Luuna, there was one Mexican and 3 foreigners, me, my husband, and another founder. So, and we were not Mexican, and we got to open the company and the store. And sometime, of course, if you want to rent a store, you need some, warranty that maybe if you're a foreigner, you don't have, etc. But it's not a big barrier. And I think in general, I don't see a lot of difficulty starting a business. I mean, if you have a good idea and you put a lot of efforts to make it work, it shouldn't be harder in Mexico, where there's a lot of opportunities. I mean, where things haven't been as developed maybe in other countries. So this is the other side, the other side of the story. It's like maybe it's a land of also more opportunities. And the landscape has changed a lot in terms of, entrepreneurship ecosystem. There's in terms of structure, like the shipping companies, last mile delivery companies, payment companies, etc. That kind of are that help you sell your products. Let's say for a CPG company, this has improved a lot. So it's even easier to start it now than it was 5 years ago. And so it's super encouraging to see that happen. There's a lot of Mexico City is kind of becoming also that hub. Like there's a lot of entrepreneurship also going around. And of course, so depending on what your business is, you might come across this type of situation. Personally, I haven't been in one that I have to say that I had to pay this guy so that this thing could happen, and maybe I was lucky. But I don't have a big example of that, and I think it's more a culture of LATAM, where you find a way to make it work. And even if the rule says, hey, maybe, you find a way to make it work with the people, and it doesn't mean that you always have to pay them, but it's more, you have to be maybe
think outside
a
the
bigger,
box,
a bigger open mind, to see, okay, how to find a way to make it work. And I think that's more about the culture in general here, and then maybe it's compared to Canada, or it's a bit more abide by, what's the regulation exactly says. That I would say a bit different is.
Throughout your last few years, with Luna, with Yema, and all the people that you might have met throughout that time frame, all the folks that you raised from, how has that peer network been? Because as you mentioned, it was you and your husband, 2015, brand new country, starting this business. Who were you able to look towards then? Who were you able to, were there classmates that you could call up and say, hey, are you guys doing something? Or maybe old professors, or right now with Yema, is there a good ecosystem where there's your peer network, a buddy down the street that you can talk to? How's that ecosystem really revolving for founders? Yeah,
so there's actually a study that Endeavor did. So Endeavor is a nonprofit organization that's global, but it's very present in the Mexican ecosystem. So by itself, it's already let's say, an entrepreneurship ecosystem. But they did a study to show that, as in the US, we talk a lot about the PayPal mafia, like how it kind of started a lot of new entrepreneurs that then went to start other things. In Mexico, they talk about the Linio mafia, which Linio is, I don't know if you know, it's like a marketplace similar to what an Amazon is at a different scale, that's present in all Latin America. And so let's say in 2000, I don't remember exactly when it started, but let's say 2013, more or less. And so it was somehow an e-commerce school for a lot of people in Latin America. And so in my case, I didn't work there, but my 3 other co-founders of Luna worked there, and this is how they met. And this is how, Luna also started, and then each one has also their contacts of other people at Linio that did maybe something else afterwards. And so a lot of companies have come out from Linio. Luna, Urban, Kava. So I really invite you to look at that study. It's very powerful to see how so many people came out from that company and then went on to start new things. But then they all had that kind of network effect also of knowing each other, and either to fund things together or to work better among companies, no? Or to know about talent, when you get to recruit. My co-founder, for instance, Angie, who is leading the tech part, is from Linio, for instance. Mm-hmm. And so when we get to recruit, she always have a pipeline of people either in tech, in marketing, that she know who to call, because it was such a large group of people really focused on e-commerce.
Wow, yeah, I'll definitely have to check out that report. And what you were just touching on, I was going to ask you about that. As far as the talent pool, how is your entire team situated in Mexico City, or especially given, post-March, post-COVID, as you expand throughout Mexico, are you looking for your workforce being completely nationwide? And how do you evaluate, and how's that ecosystem, especially when you're looking at, let's say food scientists, you're looking at packaging engineers, you're looking at, like you mentioned, the regulatory affairs team. And so when you're trying to scale and grow within Mexico, where's your talent pool coming from, and how are you able to grow at such a rapid pace if you need to?
Yeah, so I guess our view on home office, that was not very common in Mexico, maybe compared to other countries. I think changed, and for a lot of companies, not just startups. So now, I guess, as just talking for Yema, we're much more open for people to be remote. We have a lot of also foreigners in the company, so it's always easier to kind of let them maybe go back to their country of origin for maybe a greater time than just their holidays, and getting that flexibility in, but also for people in Mexico that maybe come from other cities or just want to work from home. So in that regard, we'll probably do remote and physical work for sure when the new normality arrives. We still value a lot the physical interactions. I think also the home office has been successful because it was based on previous relationship built in the office, and so and not everybody need that, but a lot of employees mentioned that yes, they would like to go at least 2 days, let's say, at the office to see the others, no? And so people are asking for more flexibility for sure, and we definitely want to give it, but hopefully we would like someone that can still come to the office sometimes to meet people. But it's not like it's a necessary requirement. We think it's a better way to build cohesion within the team.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, Laurène. To be honest, when I do come down in a few weeks, I am pretty excited to check out the store.
Let me know.
Like I was saying, mapping out my Airbnb so that I can be close proximity within a bike ride away. And so excited for that. And also all the new products that you guys are going to be launching and growing out your current in-house branding as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and be careful in Mexico when you bike to the holes in the street and las romas. But it's an exciting country. Hopefully, whoever is listening, if you have some ideas from Mexico, don't be scared. It's like it's the whole ecosystem is growing, and it's incredible to see that happening.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. And if someone wants to get, check out Yema, they're in Mexico or even abroad, and also Luuna, how would they be able to check?
Yeah, Luuna.mx and Yema.mx. Please check our page, and if you come to Mexico, you'll see that you'll enjoy the products.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for listening to the show this week. Please do leave a comment on your thoughts about today's episode, and make sure to hit subscribe to get the latest on the Global Uj. Or if you already have, please share with a friend that you think might enjoy it.